Welcome to the mess. It's everywhere. Welcome, Simple Run, and another episode of this very long and tedious build. Assassin's Creed build, aka the Animus build, aka the most ridiculous PC I've ever put together in my entire life. Now, with that being said, I need to figure out cables, right? I want to do custom cables because they look fancy, and if you're going to build an $8,000 computer, can't slack off on the cables, right? I even plan on doing a mesh cover for the soft tubes to, really make it look good. Now, with ordering custom cables, I'm not just going to do a white pack or a black pack or your carbon pack. Those do look fancy, don't get me wrong. But I want to go something, Assassin's Creed theme-ish. So I do want custom, and the great thing about cable mod when you're doing custom is you get to pick your length. Now, I need to use this to my advantage, and I really need to figure out what length is necessary. So I'm going to do that by connecting the stock PSU cables to where they need to go and see how much slack I have or how short they are. And off of that, take a good guesstimate on what I think my custom cable should be. Now, the terrible part of this build in this case is I don't really have anywhere to hide the cables, right? No matter what, with how it sits, you're going to be able to see those cables everywhere, the entire thing. Yes, I designed them to go under the tray here, but even then, there's nothing covering that at the moment. With that being said, I can design and 3D print covers. I just haven't figured that out yet because, I haven't figured out the cables. Now, if cables didn't have to do any crossover from connector to connector, this wouldn't be an issue, because then I would just have, perfectly formed cables all the way, and I would show the entire cable because personally, I think that looks really good. So really, all I need to be able to hide is the crossover and then all of these little guys. Now, I am trying to figure out how to potentially mesh cover all these little guys as well, depending. I did not put all the fans on here. So I don't have all the fan cables. Like, pretty much what I have are pump cables and RGB cables, and I don't even have all those. Right, so this isn't even anywhere near all the cables I have to hide. Before I get too far into this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below as well on what you think of the build, and feel free to ask questions or give advice. I'm here for it all. And without fail, there was something I didn't really think about before having this idea, and that is these are SFF cables, and they're way too short. So I've got to figure out a way to kind of come up with the length, right? I could do the standard ATX length, but I really didn't want to. So I might just do something like, I think I might have extenders that I can connect to these to give that idea, or I can just get, wire, which I have wire lying around here somewhere. It's a messy shop, I should. And then run one wire, run it where I want, and get the length. Now, I did kind of come up with the idea of going here, running these up along the front, on the back, down, and coming back through this spot, which you can't see right now, so I will get a better camera angle to show you guys what I'm talking about. And I'll have to figure out the length that way. But I do think, so I have two options, right? I've got two spots. Actually, let's turn this thing around. So another thing too is these stock cables, they suck. They're horrible. They don't cooperate at all. How expensive power supplies are, they should at least come with better cables or no cables. Like, these are kind of the expectancy that you're going to just change them out. Okay, then why even charge me for cables? But rant over. The plan was to come up here, out around here, down here, and through this corner. This one would kind of come, kind of here, and then my graphics card would go through here. Right, so I have this hole as well for all the fan connections, stuff like that. So my other goal with all the other wires is to hide those underneath the fancy wires, right? Easier said than done because I've got wires everywhere, right? And they're all way too damn long. Up here I might be able to just sneak them up into here to whatever length I need, right? So it's gonna be the difficulty when I do go to fully cable manage this thing of kind of running the wires from both ends. I don't know. My experience, just go on a flashback. About 13 years ago now, I started my current job, but back then I wired up custom enclosures, right? So most of that job I did have terminated ends. So you would run from one end all the way down to the corner, then you'd run from the other end to that corner, and you'd hide all your nastiness in that corner. So when the customer opens the enclosure, everything's pretty. They don't see the ugly mess. Now we had another department that is custom, and I like that one a lot more because then you custom terminated, which, you get your heavy PC customized guys, and they are custom terminating their wires. Oh man. And this would be the perfect project to do it on. I'm not gonna lie. Just don't know if I want to, but I kind of do. It would be very pretty. And if I did that, I wouldn't have to worry about doing this because I would custom terminate. The only part you get weird into is if I go 4090, you've got the fire connector, right? The let's burn everything to the ground connector. So with that one, probably not the best idea. But you kind of get an idea of where I was going with this. And there are a few options for figuring out how to run these, right? So for one, you have a full ATX build, so your cables are long enough. But even then, you get into some of those super towers and you can't guarantee your cables are going to reach, right? The V3000, I'm betting there's some power supplies out there that don't give you a long enough cable to reach those top CPU connectors, right? They are at the furthest point away from your power supply on almost every build, unless you get into like the Vantex NV7 where the power supply is up there, right? And then it's one of your shorter runs. That does remind me though, in my last video, there were a couple things I forgot to go over. Let's try and angle this bad boy again. It's already heavy and it's not even fully loaded. Whew. This right here, you see this bracket? This bracket is removable. So you would think that bracket is removable so that you can connect the radiator and then pop the bracket in there with the radiator on. I was not able to do that. In fact, I don't think it's possible. Maybe it is if you don't go fully ridiculous, but you have the bracket it hooks to is a lot smaller than your radiator. So you'd have to I don't know, there's just not enough room for this to go up for this much in when down here is so much shorter, right? They did these weird little setups so it doesn't quite work. But who knows? Maybe I did it wrong. I will try when I go to take it out. But, part of my issue and why it might not work my way is I do have fans where there are not supposed to be fans, right? You're not supposed to have fans on the top on these bottom. It was not designed for them. Which I did run into an issue there. These front two screws on this front fan collide with this radiator, preventing it from going down any further. So the plus side of that is I get a little bit taller space for these guys. Well, actually, no, I don't. That's a lie. I do not. So my plan is to just take those two screws out, right? I will still have, 10 of 12 screws. Be more than enough, especially since those fans do snap together. I'm still gonna have 2 of the 4 on there. it'll be plenty to not worry about vibrations. And if it does vibrate, well, then I'm going to be stuck with it until I drain the loop at some point. Which brings me to the next fun part of my design to talk about. And that is the cool part of the dual loop and the way I designed this layout is the graphics card, of course, goes right here, and I have two hard tubes down to these soft tubes, right? So that's it. These two runs. So technically, all I've got to do, and it is the top point, is get enough fluid out of there so nothing's coming up in there to be able to pop out the graphics card and put a new one in. So if I do decide to continue with my 2080 Ti because I cannot find a 4090 at MSRP, then it won't be that difficult to drain this bottom loop, leave the top loop alone, and pop that out, pop a new one in, refill it, call it a day. So there's a good chance that that'll be what I'm doing there. All right, so it is messy. It will, well, hopefully look a lot better than this when I'm actually wiring it. But to kind of give you an idea of what I was doing, I couldn't find an extension cable for this that I have, and I couldn't find my wiring. Today's not going the way I had planned, but I still made it work, right? So through here for the CPU connections, down here, it will not loop through here. I did this to get an idea of length. Over here, down on the opposite side of this, like it is routed, to there, down through here. Motherboard power come through here, down also through there. Now I do have the option to come back over here as well. I haven't tried that out to see what that looks like. I might, I don't know. I'm really contemplating just making custom cables with how this has gone. So as you can see, then it comes through down there and it comes up through this little hole. Can't really see it that well. And there and up here. So essentially the purple and the SFF connected is pretty close to the exact wire length I would need to also be able to hide the nasty. And then the length of the other two connectors for the CPU down through there and up to here is about what I would need for that as well. This video and the last video have just been a whole lot of, well, not going as planned. But, you know, you learn some things as you go. Now, what this really has me contemplating on is just making my own custom cables. I don't know if I want to. But if you want the best look, that is the way to go. Now, I do have a rough idea of cable length with what I've done here. So I could do the cable mod cable. Now, part of what is tossing up, you know, just making my own is really my color theme. Right now, originally I had planned to go a turquoise mesh cover for my tubes, and then, you know, white, red, black for those. But if I made my own, I could switch it and do the turquoise here, so it's not as much turquoise. I did go through and order almost every sample that XPC cable sleeving out of Germany has. So it was about $35 after shipping. Is not bad. I will have a ton of samples, including the side samples. But I kind of ordered every color that I could think of that, you know, would not only cover my big sleeving, but if I actually pulled the trigger on doing all of the cables. Now, with that being said, it is a large undertaking, right? You're buying the wire you need, you're buying the mesh, you're buying the pins. If you don't have the cable crimpers, you're buying those as well. You're buying a lot. So we'll see if I actually pull the trigger on that. Now, the cool thing with that, though, is if I wanted, I could redo these SATA cables too, right? And I could, at the very least, mesh cover all of this. So if you do see them, it doesn't look as bad. Honestly, what I might do is just try and find a way to get a mesh size that I could fit over like these connectors. That's not going to work with the size of the SATA, sadly, but I don't know. I don't know if I need to go that hardcore or if I just need to hide that stuff, right? It's one of those where you contemplate. And, you know, when I did Wayne Tower, that build itself, I think I made it 2 years, and I'm like a year and a half on my Vader build. This one, I don't want to do that, right? I'm hoping that with what I've learned from those builds and my other custom builds, that this won't lead me astray, right? I'm not depending on a PCI riser like I did on Wayne Tower. That was, you know, the end of that one, because then I had to drain the loop, and that was a nightmare. And Vader is, well, it's not too bad. Learned some things on how to put together 3D printed parts. I'm not overly happy with how that turned out on that one, but you know, the best way to learn is to keep doing. You either, you know, you win or you learn, and sometimes you do fail in what you try. That has been happening nonstop on this build. I wouldn't say fails, but not the way I'd hoped, and learning a lot as I go. So we will see where this build ends up. Now, all of that ranting has led to, I haven't decided what I'm going to do. And ultimately, I don't know that I will decide cable-wise until I get those, all those sleeves in to really check out those samples. And when I get those in, maybe we'll do a video just to go over that. I did not order every single one because there are multiple of those sample kits that there was not a single color in there I was interested in, at least not for this build. But I did order like 6 or 7 samples, I can't even remember, on like sample packs. And most of those samples had 5 or more sleeves in there. So there is a lot. Don't forget to like and subscribe, right? This build has been long. Still plan on pumping out a lot of videos. I'm hoping you guys are gaining as much from this as I am. You know, feel free to drop comments on, you know, what you think and what I can bring to the table going forward, right? What are things you would like to learn about builds like this? Because I do want to help you guys avoid my mistakes while also getting, you know, cool PCs out of it. I love my custom computers. Yeah, I'm back to just rambling, so I think we're going to wrap it up there, and we'll see you next time.